However, that for which Hindus used to vote BJP, that they have absolutely not achieved and not even tried to achieve. You see, there are a number of anti-Hindu discriminations in the constitution and then in other laws and in daily political practice, but starting with the constitution. And so the BJP could have done something about that. And I don't mean Hindu Rashtra. I mean, I agree in principle that the whole concept of the constitution should be rethought, you know, given the essentially colonial origin of the constitution. But nevertheless, we can do with the present constitution on condition that it becomes really secular. I mean, you see, all the scholars and so on start their papers with India is a secular state, moreover fortified by the warning, and the BJP is a threat to the secular state, implying that it is a secular state. Now, it is not, you know, the text of the constitution. And so the BJP could have done something about that. It hasn't, and it hasn't even tried. And so you have all the devotees who are inventing excuses. Like, for instance, they don't have a 2/3 majority. In a number of cases, they don't need it. Like, for instance, Article 30, and that's the most important one, by far the most important one, because it concerns education. It concerns the future. And it is far more important now than in the past. Now everybody goes to school. Now you see the history that people get to know is not from, you know, storytellers in the village square who relate to Mahabharata or so. No, the source of knowledge there is the school books.
Yes.
And so it's very important to wrest control of education from, you know, the communists, the leftists who have controlled it for the past half century. Now, that article says that the minorities cannot be discriminated against. And I'm all in favor of that. I don't think anybody should be discriminated against. And when the mostly Hindu Constituent Assembly voted that article, clearly they had in mind that obviously the majority can also not be discriminated against. But under Indira, gradually this got reinterpreted. And so now it's a license for discrimination against Hindus. That's why many Hindu organizations involved in education have tried to acquire a non-Hindu minority status. So there is this race to the exit, mainly because of practical, easily identifiable legal reasons, but also increasingly because of the bad reputation of Hinduism. You know, it's a sinking ship, and all the rats are leaving it. So if there are any Hindus present here, it means that they're not rats. But like, for example, the tribal current called Sarna. Sarna is a sacred grove in Jharkhand and Bengal. They have arranged to be recognized at state level as a separate religion.
Yes.
Now, the missionaries, the Christian missionaries, have greatly applauded this because it weakens Hinduism. Yes, but that's not the whole story. Because the main reason why this Sarna group exists is precisely to defend their traditions against the missionaries. And they reason that if we call ourselves Hindus, we are part of this ugly, vicious, oppressive Hinduism. Whereas if we say, no, we are tribal, indigenous, and so on, that sounds good. Then the United Nations and so on, they're all on your side. So you have this de facto depreciation of Hinduism, both psychologically and legally. Now, the psychological thing, many people can help change that. Like, for instance, the rewriting of history. You see, right now, history is very hard on the Hindus. blaming the Hindus for all kinds of things, often writing bad history, like about caste. You know, the whole history of caste is far more subtle. And especially, it does not say, as the missionaries, for example, or the Ambedkarites insist on saying, that caste is intrinsic to Hinduism. It's clearly not. In the Vedas, there was no caste. And so it has a history. It has grown, and now, the last century, it has decreased a lot. But so, at any rate, that history deserves to be told realistically. And so the result of that will be that the present depreciation of Hinduism will become a lot less. Like, for example, why are the Sikhs and not only the Khalistanis insisting hum Hindu nahi? So a large part of the reason is it's ugly to be a Hindu, you know. You see, Hinduism has such a negative reputation, which a true retelling of Indian history will change for the better. I mean, there are so many great achievements on the Hindu side that you ought to be proud of. And so if that story can be realistically told, then, you know, ultimately, after maybe 2-3 generations, this will remedy the present situation.